Hey, what's up, guys? This is MugenLord here, and today I just want to have a little bit of a rant when it comes to Square Enix. I don't know what it is about that company, man. I just used to love these guys, and today they just make some of the most odd decisions that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, who's running that company? Like, somebody needs to get fired, or there needs to be a total shakeup and a restructuring for this company, because the decisions that they make just baffles me at times. Because they just made a recent announcement of their strategic planning moving forward as far as how they will deliver games in the near future starting in 2024. And then this decision just doesn't make sense to me at all. So before we dive into it, if you're interested and want to know what it is, make sure you hit the subscribe button, notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. So we're going to dive into it. Square Enix, they're just nothing more just than a shell of what they used to be. Most of the original talent had left, moved on to bigger pastures, better pastures, and even started their own studios. And now we just have a husk of a company. You know, when you see Square Enix in their logo, back in the day, you knew what type of quality you was getting. You was going to get a top tier quality experience. One of my favorite Japanese studios of all time. Like, if you are into JRPGs, you knew that you was in for a treat anytime Square Enix have released anything when it comes to the JRPG genre. They were the go-to, they had set the standard. But it seemed like today, when it comes to Square Enix, they more so follow trends, and they pretty much admitted that they follow trends instead of just being their own and creating their own trends and just be the one that set the standards when it comes to the gaming industry, and especially more specifically the RPG genre itself. But it just seemed like the West is just, when it comes to market share and focus and genre specific things, it seems that Square Enix just follow what they do, and then they try to implement those things in their games, especially games that were traditionally one gameplay style or traditionally one way, and now they just take those traditional titles and now they try to modernize it to satisfy a certain audience or to appease to the West, instead of just having their own unique identity. That's what makes Square Enix really special, and most Japanese studios in general. But anyway, just recently, from Genki, you need to follow him. He covers a lot of things gaming, and he gets the inside scoops, and he has details and reports of the gaming industry and what these companies and their decisions, especially when it comes to their business conferences and calls. So from Genki, it's stated that Square Enix says it will focus less on mid-sized games and more on AAA games moving forward. The focus strategy is less mid-size, more larger AAA console games. Company said will take several years to impact. So it's going to take us several years before we actually start to feel this. But this decision to do that just doesn't make any sense to me, because everything, especially in today's genre, it seems like you have to go to the indie game space to get the games that you want. It seemed like gaming today, especially today, more specifically the AAA experience in these AAA studios, all they focus on is the AAA experience. And the AAA experience always have to be these big, expansive storytelling, these big, expansive worlds, and everything to the point where it just seemed like the same. They focus on the cinematic experience rather than just create a fun game that you can just sit down, turn your brain off, and just simply enjoy it for what it is, a video game. Now, the thing is, Square Enix has been going through financial troubles and just issues in general. And more specifically, the Final Fantasy brand has just been wavering up and down. Final Fantasy 16 has been controversial, and you keep hearing reports that, it's successful. Then you hear other reports that Square Enix is essentially, don't know, what to do. It didn't, meet its expectations. And you're just hearing all these kind of mixed, signals, or these mixed responses when it comes to Final Fantasy 16 and just the brand in general. And many people were wondering, when is Final Fantasy, or when is Square Enix is going to be the company that we once known and loved. And the thing that I really get frustrated about Square Enix is the fact is that they do some things that's really awesome, and then they turn around in other regards that they just make these stupid decisions, and you say, Square Enix, like, what the hell? It's kind of like you in abusive relationships, you know, like one minute you're happy with them, and then they slap you across the face, and then they apologize, you know, to you, and then release another pretty awesome title, and then, you know, they're back in your good graces again. And that's how I feel when it comes to Square Enix. But this decision right here, to me, is really, really stupid. Mid-sized games. Do you understand what they mean by mid-sized games? You know what we've been experiencing, especially back in 2022. I think 2022, as far as Square Enix is concerned, was a pretty good year. And I've covered a lot of the games that they had announced last year and actually did reviews on them. These mid-sized games is games like Alive Remake, you know, Star Ocean, The Divine Force. You had Valkyrie Elysium, you know, and you also had, of course, like I said before, you had other titles like DioField Chronicles. These are just a perfect example of titles that were mid-size that was pretty good. Like even Harvestella, which that Square Enix even gave to me for free as a promo to pretty much, you know, preview for you guys and stuff, which I have to really put that up when I get a chance. But these were mid-sized titles. These were titles that Square Enix is pushing out and experimenting with. And I like the fact that they experiment with these titles, because eventually these titles, if they become popular enough, you know, these titles can eventually become these AAA titles or the more mainstream titles. I even like a few years back with the Trials of Mana classic release, and then they did a remake of Trials of Mana, which was also pretty awesome, and that also had received a ton of accolades from the fans and also newcomers to the Mana series. And then they also talked that, hey, it sold really, really well, you know, it's time for us to actually go in and, you know, bring back the Mana series. So there will be a new Mana game in the works, like they promised. And I think that was pretty good that they have done that. And then we can, of course, you know, forget this year. We just had the recent announcement of Star Ocean 2 remake that's coming, and also Super Mario RPG remake as well for the Nintendo Switch. These are all mid-sized titles that they're bringing out, and I think it's good for the company. They have a whole catalog, and they got a chance to like really experiment to see what works, what doesn't work, and what they can do to tweak these titles to see what fans want. And now they're going back on that and saying that they're going to focus less on that. And I just really think that's just crazy. And we also can't forget about Octopath Traveler. Regardless of how some people may feel about it, these were other classics, you know, games that, you know, that they bought, or a classic style JRPG that they brought to modern times that people really experience. What about Bravely Default sequel that they had bought for the Nintendo Switch? These are titles that's necessary, you know, for the company and just great for fans of this company. And now they're going to try to just backtrack and just say, hey, you know what? Let's just focus on the AAA experience. And when they focus on the AAA experience, they're also letting you guys know that this stuff is going to take a long time for these titles to come out. So we'll be waiting years and years before we see these AAA games to come to fruition. But these mid-sized titles, I enjoyed more than a AAA experience. I enjoyed Alive way more than I enjoyed Final Fantasy 16. I enjoyed Alive Remake. Enjoyed the hell out of that damn game. Loved it. In fact, last year, for 2022, as far as Square Enix is concerned, Star Ocean: The Divine Force was my JRPG of the year. I enjoyed every last bit of that game. It was back to form. It was a fun game. It didn't have to be this big extravagant event. It done enough to keep me captivated. It kept me continuing to play the game. I played it for hours, couldn't sit the controller down. One of the best experiences that I had that entire year, along with Alive Remake, which I've done a review for all the titles, and the DioField Chronicles. We can't forget about that, and I still suggest that you guys go check that game out, especially if you're into tactical real-time strategy RPGs. And that title right there alone was a title that, if you never heard of this type of genre, it was that gateway to get you to understand how tactical RPGs work, and had an excellent story. I love the characters, and to hear that they want to get away from the mid-size titles really like disappoint me. You know what I'm saying? Like, why? Like, does this mean that we will never see a sequel to DioField Chronicles? Or does this mean that we'll never see another Star Ocean game? Like, these are titles that I really enjoyed, and now they want to do away with that. And it just boggles my mind, some of the decisions that they make, especially when they acquire studios like Crystal Dynamics. You know, there was a lot of things they could have done. They could have revived the Legacy of Kain series. They could have brought that back, but they didn't. And, you know, the Tomb Raider started off pretty good, and then that kind of fell off, in my personal opinion. But the biggest thing that caused them to sell the company off altogether was the failure, which was the Avengers game. That game was horrible, and all they needed to do when it came to the Avengers game was make it an action game, a solo experience, or you can just have a linear story progression with multiplayer features where you just play through the story together. It didn't have to be a live service game at all. And I was excited for it at first, but I started getting worried after a while because we didn't hear it for a long time. But the moment they revealed it at E3 and I saw the gameplay, saw the horrible character models, saw everything that just didn't look right about the game, and then the cherry on top was that it was going to be a live service game. And I know many people was not expecting that, but the game was a failure. It felt really bad, and it caused them to sell off the company. And then you have, you know, the last CEO or whoever was in charge at the time talking about that, hey, we're going to start focusing on NFTs. Like, who idea was that to just focus on NFTs? It doesn't make sense. People wanted Parasite Eve, and yet they give us a NFT game that utilizes the same name and terminology that Parasite Eve has. And many people were thinking that maybe this may be a new Parasite Eve, but no, it's an NFT game. Who ideal is this? NFTs has been the bane of gaming, and just the bane of just, you know, tech in general. No one wants it. Gamers don't want NFTs. They don't want it in their games. They don't want to work and play games. They don't want to make money while playing games in this sense. And yet they doubled down on it. The year before last year, the CEO had left a letter saying, yeah, we want to focus on NFTs. And then before the end of 2022, they doubled down on that again. Like, who's in charge? Who's coming up with these ideas? I really need to know. It's like Square Enix is just lost. They're just throwing darts at the wall and hoping to see what sticks. And as I said before, sometimes they make some great decisions, and other times, especially most of the time, they make horrible decisions, horrible choices. And I don't understand this mentality that they have. I really think that this company needs some restructuring. Something needs to happen, because Square Enix, man, is really looking bad in my eyesight. One of my favorite game studios ever since I was a little kid. And it's just a shame to see, you know, this company just become a mere shell of what it used to be. And it shouldn't be that way, man. It really shouldn't be that way, you know? And right now, what they're relying on and banking on at this point is Final Fantasy. You know, we do have the next entry to the trilogy of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and they trying to milk Final Fantasy VII as much as they can with Ever Crisis. That's a gacha mobile game. They failed when it came to the first Soldier game, and that could have been a hit. It was a battle royale game with Final Fantasy features in it, and I would have thought that it would have been smart for them to put it on consoles and make it a console game. But whatever the stupid decision that they decided in their head is, hey, let's make this a mobile game, and that's the reason why it failed. And can we say the same thing? Will the same thing happen to Ever Crisis? Yes, right now people are saying good things about it, but what about the long run when it comes to Ever Crisis? Will it last long? Will people come back for more and more and more? I mean, with Ever Crisis as it is, it's not even a true remake at all. You know, this game is like a greatest hits. They're playing some of the most iconic scenes, and then they're not even telling the story correctly. They're changing a lot of things up too, so it's not even the OG Final Fantasy like how they advertised at the beginning when it came to Ever Crisis, you know. So I don't know what's going on, and it seemed like Yoshi P with Final Fantasy 14 is like Final Fantasy 14 is holding the company up. You know, we got the new DLC coming next year. It's coming to Xbox. That's more subscriptions right there. Graphical overhaul that's coming. Really cool. I gotta get back into Final Fantasy 14. But I don't like, what else do they have going for them right now? It seems like they're panicking. They just doing whatever. It's like they just turning off their business minded brains and just, hey, let's just do whatever and see what works. I mean, I would like to see another Nair game, a brand new Nair game that's not a mobile game. I like to see what they do with that franchise, since Nier Automata has done really well for the company, and now it has become a pretty popular series, and it also has an anime, you know. So I definitely want to know, like, what's next? Is this a great idea? Because I need to hear this from you guys. I know there are a lot of you guys love JRPGs as well. My channel focuses a lot on JRPGs. I want to know what your thoughts are. I know there's a lot of other companies and alternatives. There's the Trail series, which I have to get into. There's so many of you guys telling me to get into the Trail series, and I will, because I bought the first Trails game on Steam years ago. I installed it but never got a chance to really sit down and play it. But the Trail series is something that everybody raves about. Says I heard nothing but positive things about the Trail series. So yes, there are alternatives out there, but come on, it's Square Enix, come on, what are you doing, guys? So that pretty much wraps up this video. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about this whole situation with Square Enix just wanting to just focus less on mid-sized games and just focus more on that AAA experience? Do you think this is a bad idea? I really need to know from you guys. I think this is really important. I think this is an important discussion that we need to have. And share some of your memories as far as Square Enix is concerned. You're like, what was your first title from this company, and which one is your favorite of all time? So if you like the video, hit the subscribe button, notification bell for more gaming content. And like I said before, like the video. It definitely helps me out in the algorithm. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.